Hello BookTube, I have a manga haul today. A few weeks ago I put in an order with pals for 7 volumes of manga, and those volumes came in today. Ordinarily I would hold up the pals box. Unfortunately the box itself was quite damaged. How pals packs their books is that they will have a pals box, and then the books themselves will be wrapped in protective plastic. The box itself was damaged, so I went ahead and broke that box down and put it out for disposal. And I have the 7 volumes with me. So let's get going. First up, I ordered 2 volumes of Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead, by Haro and Kotaro Takata, volumes 8 and 9. So Zom 100 is a zombie apocalypse story about a 24-year-old wage slave named Akira. On the day of the zombie apocalypse, Akira decides to quit his job and to make a bucket list of 100 things he would like to do before he becomes a zombie. On his journey to completing that bucket list, he reacquaints himself with an old friend, Kincho, as well as a young woman that he falls in love with, Shizuka, and a German tourist, Beatrix. They go on a journey around Japan, fulfilling their various bucket list items. And so far, I am loving this series. It is amazing. The shenanigans that get on, the artwork, this is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So far, there are 15 volumes in English translation, and I'm working my way up to getting caught up. Another series that I picked up 2 volumes of is Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui. I have volumes 10 and 11. So Delicious in Dungeon is inspired by RPGs and video games in the sense that there is this massive dungeon that for decades adventurers have explored trying to conquer. One of these adventurers is a man named Leos, who has a band of adventurers, including his sister Fallon, Fallon's best friend Marcial, a half-foot named Chilchuk, and 2 others. One day they encounter the Red Dragon, a monster that lurks within the dungeon, and they are killed and Fallon eaten. Unfortunately, when Leos and his companions are resurrected, they don't have any of their money. Their goods were left deep in the dungeon. And so Leos has to decide whether he wants to try to elicit help or go back into the dungeon immediately to rescue Fallon. He decides on the later course. 2 of his companions decide to abandon the party, leaving just Marcial and Chilchuk with him. As they begin to enter the dungeon, or re-enter the dungeon, they meet a dwarf named Shinchi, who has lived off the dungeon for quite some time. And this ignites in Leos a desire to live off the dungeon himself. Leos is deeply interested in monsters, not only in a scientific way, but also in a culinary way. And so, under Shinchi's guidance and culinary skill, Leos and his companions re-explore the dungeon in an attempt to conquer it, to free Fallon. and also sample the culinary delights of the various monsters in the dungeon. This series is an absolute blast, and I sadly have, after these 2 volumes, 3 more volumes to complete the series. Delicious in Dungeon is a 14-volume long series, so I am up to 11 in my possession, and I already went ahead and ordered the final 3 volumes with my most recent PALS order. So those final 3 volumes will be coming in shortly. But I'm really happy to have volumes 10 and 11 of Delicious in Dungeon. And finally, I picked up 3 volumes of Frieren Beyond Journey's End by Kanehito Yamada and Tsukasa Abe, volumes 7, 8, and 9. Frieren is a fantasy series that explores what happens after the epic quest has already been accomplished. Frieren is a elf. She has lived for 1,000 years, and to her, all of her companions on her epic quest were ephemeral acquaintances, although they do mean something significant to her. And decades after her quest, she goes on a new quest with a number of new companions. And so far, I've read 6 volumes of the series, and I am loving it. And I'm really happy to have these next 2 volumes, as well as in a week or so, the next 2 volumes, which will get me caught up with Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Currently, there are 11 volumes out in English translation from Viz, and the 12th volume will come out, I think, in January or February of next year. But I'm really happy to have these 3, and I'm looking forward to reading them. So, to do my manga pyramid of what I got in today, Delicious in Dungeon, Volume 10 and 11, Zom 100, 8, and 9. Love that cover. Frieren Beyond Journey's End, 7, 8, and 9. So, thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.